But 'tis the 4th hour of the 4th day. I can't fight.
I was drawn to the worship of my gods because, well, the moment I first heard her voice, I can't explain it.
Oh, the other gods deserve worship.
I acknowledge you.
In the tapestry of the cosmos, there is room for all.
Allow the goddess to grant you all
Amazing roles in your future battles with evil and darkness. Turn to her light when all seems lost, and tell your GM that the great GM hath granted thee inspiration, so you can get out of the trouble you're currently in. Hello and welcome to this week's player video. This is a video for players to watch and DMs, GMs, narrators, creators and storytellers to watch. Of course, you're always welcome at my table. We are talking about how to create an interesting priest or cleric or person of the cloth. Now, I have a particular bugbear when it comes to this particular class. I am not in any way, shape or form referencing people who are currently on this planet in a religious space. All right? There is a very big difference between someone who is choosing to do this as a real-life occupation here on Earth and a fantasy character. So, unlike the previous week's videos, which have been ridiculously long, but they were important, I felt. Anyway, let's get on with it. This is not something that a lot of people ever think about when it comes to character creation, and it is one of my personal bugbears. Why the hell did your character become this thing in the first place? So when it comes to fantasy settings, all right, magic, whether it is divine, or whether it is arcane, or whether it is natural, the characters are usually born with it, so then they don't have much of a choice. But there is no rule, there is nothing anywhere, in these modern day times anyway, that says that that is true. There's nothing that says you can't learn it. And as a matter of fact, most role-playing systems allow for you to add it on later on. Well, I thought you were born with it. Yeah, but I just never expressed it. Why? Well, because my player didn't think I was going to go down this class, and then they decided to do it later on because they thought it would be fun. No, it's just not good role-playing. What is good role-playing? What is good role-playing is, at the very beginning when you're creating the character, if you have decided that you are going to be a cleric, or a priest, or a monk, or someone who is following a path which is prescribed, i.e. a religion, if they are going to be following that, they need to have chosen to do that, or to have been forced into it, or someone somewhere in their existence needs to have said, you are going into the clergy. That decision was made. Your character needs to reflect it. Because if your character isn't reflecting it, well, that's insane, right? That is role-playing gold that you are literally just ignoring. Completely ignoring. When we look at our own real-world existence, the second son or the third son in rich families oftentimes was sent into the clergy. There was lots of money to be made from being a cleric. There was lots of prestige to be gained from having a son who's following along in father's footsteps. It was useful to have some kind of link with the right kind of church. Although sometimes, of course, if you sent your son to become a Protestant and everyone became Catholic all of a sudden, well, things needed to change around quite quickly. That's a whole different story. But look at that story that's come out of just that single situation, that single choice. That is gold. Deciding why. Why did your character go, you know what, I hear the voice of the 17 greater gods and the 56 minor gods in my head. I think I'm going to become a cleric. That's pretty good. They heard the voices. Did they freak out about that? Was that just something that they thought was normal? Do they like the voices? Do they like hearing the voices? What kind of conversations do they have? Do they talk about, armpit hair and plucking eyebrows? Or is it all smiting, smoting, and creation? These are moments that you can add into the role-playing so that things become so much more interesting. Now, I am almost totally, utterly convinced that your DM will not have thought about these particular questions. That's fine. If you've got a decent DM, your DM or your GM or your storyteller or your narrator or your creator, you know I like to call them all those things because they are all those things. If they're decent, they will encourage you to go, yes, what conversations do you have with the dark god of the third underworld of hell? I mean, because it can't all just be supplication and cowering. If you've got a direct link, if you are drawing your power directly from them, there's got to be more to it. Or maybe there isn't, but maybe your character wants there to be more to it. Do you see how important this is? It's super, super important. But what happens, I hear you ask, or not? I don't hear voices in my head. There's not enough room. My own voice is already loud enough. What happens if you are playing a character and then you decide to become a divinely inspired character? You become a religious character. Well, that's a different story. How do you roleplay that? Did you suddenly start hearing voices? Or have you always been hearing voices, but you've suppressed them? Or perhaps you didn't want to express them. You wanted to get rid of them. You wanted to pray them away. Whatever. That's story. That's character. And that is something that you can bring in to your role-playing. How would you bring it into your role-playing? Okay, very, very simply. As the chamber is filling up with water and certain death is about to happen, your character can turn to the others and go, you know, when I was still coming to terms with my connection to the gods, I hated it. I thought that they weren't there and that they had cursed me with this whole thing of being able to hear them. And now I draw comfort from the fact that they are here. And I just want to thank them for the opportunity of knowing all of you. Great role-playing, at least not my performance, obviously. We're not rating that. No, but it is an opportunity for you to add that in rather than just going, yeah, my character's hit points are going down. Yeah, my character drowns. So now that we've dealt with step 1, step 2, how does your character feel about the connection? So just because your character has now accepted their fate, they've chosen their fate, they are embracing this fate, what do they feel now about the connection to the divine? Do they feel that it empowers them? Do they feel that it gives them a certain prestige?
I talk to gods. You swing a sword.
There's just no comparison. I literally have a line to the big woman upstairs, and you are chopping down people like trees. Is there an arrogance? Is there a humility? Is there a we are insignificant? The choice is up to you. And the more interesting the choice, I feel, the more opportunity there is for role-playing. Now, as with all of the previous how to play a wizard or a paladin, all of those previous videos, the critical thing here is that you're not going to be injecting this into every single conversation that you have. No one does that in real life, so why should you do it in role-playing? And when you are sitting there going, I don't know what my character would think, what my character would do, well, in this case, for the cleric, well, your character should probably be trying to have a conversation with the big one. And that doesn't mean, by the way, and this is something that I find particularly irritating, is that the players go, oh, well, I asked the gods what to do. How? How do you do that? Let me know. Come back to me. Is it hands and knees? Is it forehead on ground? Is it lying on your back with your eyes open staring at the sky? Is it wearing a bag over your head? Do you have to face a particular direction? Tell me. Give me some role-playing. Let me see what your character is doing rather than just saying, oh, I pray to the gods. You don't have to do it every single time, but every now and again is nice. And to remind us that you do that particular thing every time is nice. Just add it in. It's this is the whole point of the channel, right? Is to be better, not to be mundane. Not that you are you are mundane if you don't add these things in. There's no other way to describe it. What is the attitude of the religion? What is their attitude towards other religions? Because we have seen on our own planet gigantic wars. We still see them to this day being used as excuses for wars and terrorism and chaos and all that kind of stuff. What is the opinion of your particular religion? Now, again, you might say, well, this is up to the DM who's world building, right? The DM may have some thoughts. So absolutely, Ask them, hey, what does my religion think about, let's say, the other religions, or the Orcish religions, or the Elvish religions, or the this, or the that, or the da-da-da-da-da-da. Are there multiple religions, or has everyone just realized, well, because this particular pantheon of gods can actually physically manifest themselves and do so using magic, everyone just believes in them, which I pretty much feel is exactly what would happen, by the way, if that was the case. Ask the DM, and if the DM is like, well, I don't know, how do you feel about it? Think about it. What makes it more interesting? Now, if you become or create this character who is completely intolerant of everybody else's religions and have to attack and burn down their spaces on sight, it's an interesting choice. Is it the right choice? Is it something, well, that is a temple to an evil 8-armed god, I have to destroy it? Well, sure. Do you have to do it now, or could we come back? Because we've got a mission to accomplish. If the player character's dedication and devotion overrides the interest of the party, you have to expect conflict. You need to also make sure that the character is malleable enough that they go, no, we must destroy it now, for it is an oppressive sight in the sight of my 6-armed goddess of light. The 8-armed goddess of evil must be destroyed. Yes, we understand this, but the princess is dying of poison, and she will die in the next few hours, and destroying that temple is going to take us days. We'll come back tomorrow with more people. Your player character, your character, has to accept some kind of compromise. They have to accept it and move on, because otherwise all you're doing is you're creating a little dictator who is going to control the group. And nobody wants that. Okay? No. So think about what is their approach to other religions. If it is an animosity, if it is an antagonistic, think about how you can reflect that, but at the same time not cause it to destroy everything. A classic example is Gimli and Legolas from The Lord of the Rings. A dwarf and an elf, and there were traditionally animosity between the two. They still worked together, and of course at the end had a friendship. Oh, spoiler alert. That is a good example. At no point did their differences ever stop them from following the main mission. Step number 4 is something that I think personally, this is where most clerics fall down. In role-playing sense, is how are they renewed or how are they restored in their faith? Is it through having a direct conversation with their god being that they are worshipping? Or is it about going to a temple every time that they're in town and just spending 10 minutes in contemplation and in reflection in the holy space? Is it about tithing? Is it about giving money? Is it about doing a certain charitable act? How do they renew their faith? How do they bring it back into their being? This doesn't have to happen every single second. It's just something you add to your toolbox so that the next time the party goes to town and everyone splits up, going to go and buy stuff, repair stuff, drink with stuff, sleep with stuff, you are going, I'm actually going to go to my temple where I spend just half an hour tending the garden, which will be in the inner sanctum. Or I go and connect with the old bishop who's going to bless my actions. Look at that wonderful opportunity. Your DM can now go, oh, look, I can inject all kinds of missions there. Are you going to do it every single time? No, because the next time you're in town, all you do is, what's everyone doing? Okay, I go to the temple and I spend some time there. You don't have to describe the whole process every single time. So those 4 steps, in my opinion, are what you need to add to your cleric, regardless of their build and their abilities and all that kind of stuff. If you add those 4 things, you are empowered to drop in these things throughout your role-playing sessions, and I guarantee you, you will have a better cleric than any other cleric that has ever existed before, because they will feel rich, they will feel rounded, and they will feel genuine and real. And that will allow everybody else at the table to connect with them, and it'll allow you to connect with them even more. Those are my thoughts. Hit the like button or the subscribe button if you like these ideas. And until next time, I want to say a massive thank you to all of my wonderful patrons, and we'll see you all again next week. So, until then, happy gaming.